from the Commonwealth. The Secretary General of the Commonwealth Secretariat, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, will be making a statement about her visit to Zambia. And when she's made a statement, she will take questions. When asking questions, please clearly state your name and the organization you're representing, and we'll have someone bring around a microphone to you. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening, everyone. I propose to read my statement, and having read it as has been indicated, I'd be happy to take questions. And this statement I make at the conclusion of a series of talks that I have had with a number of different stakeholders. Having had the benefit of extensive discussions and consultations with several stakeholders, and in deep appreciation of the significant efforts made by church leaders to promote and sustain peace and harmony in the Republic of Zambia, and the continued pivotal role to be played by them in any future implementation of an inclusive roadmap for peaceful and harmonious cooperation, I have held separate discussions with His Excellency, the President, and the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to explore whether, supported by church leaders and other stakeholders, there was scope for an agreement which could take the parties forward. Discussions took place on diverse occasions during my visit from the 7th of August to the 9th of August today, with the following outcome. His Excellency, Mr. Edgar Lungu, the President of the Republic of Zambia, and the Honourable Leader of the main opposition party, the United Party for National Development, UPND, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, both being committed to the values and aspirations set out in the Commonwealth Charter, peace and harmony, particularly in this peace-building year of the Commonwealth, have agreed to a process of dialogue, facilitated by and through the good offices of the Secretary General, whereby a roadmap of reforms pursuant to Commonwealth principles of good practice, governance, and the rule of law can be undertaken in preparation for the 2021 elections. This roadmap will be created through an inclusive, consultative process which will involve other political parties, civil society, church leaders, and other stakeholders. His Excellency, the President, and the Honourable Leader of the Opposition have further agreed that progress of the implementation of the said reforms should be reviewed at the end of 2019 in order to ensure that the preparation and implementation of any such agreed reforms are completed expeditiously and in good time for the said 2021 elections and for the benefit of future elections. As an expression of goodwill and in consideration of the agreement by both His Excellency, the President, and the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to dialogue and peace, and their joint commitment to the proposed roadmap, both being men of faith and devoted to the people of Zambia, have agreed not to look backward, but in order to promote peace, stability, and the public good, to look forward to the next election, to give dialogue, peace, and harmony a chance. Both parties have further agreed to take such steps as are within their gift to create an environment that is conducive to peaceful resolution by generating greater and deeper public confidence in their commitment to a constructive, progressive, and responsible engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General. If you have a question, please put your hand up.
What action would you take in an event that our political leaders failed to fulfill the commitments that they've made? Are there any sanctions that you would take as the Commonwealth?
This is not a question of sanctions. You'll know that each country, each sovereign country, has the right to manage its affairs as it chooses. As a member of the Commonwealth, committed to peace, harmony and goodwill, the Zambian leaders of the different political parties are clearly in control of the acts and omissions committed by them in their countries. The role of the Commonwealth in this occasion is to see whether it was possible to broker a consensual agreement between the parties which they themselves wish to fulfill. It's been a great pleasure for me to see that both His Excellency the President and the leader of the opposition are committed to goodwill, peace and the best interests and public good of the peoples of Zambia. They therefore have each jointly and severally agreed to commit themselves to this process. They have done so willingly and without reservation, for which I think both need to be warmly congratulated. The future of Zambia is in the hands of their leaders and their people. And Zambia has always been a beacon of peace and an exemplar for many of us within the Commonwealth. The commitment by both leaders is sound, and I look forward to both not only keeping to those commitments, but delivering real value for the people that they jointly serve.
My name is Chris from Voyagers Judges. Did you discuss the prison charges that the opposition leader is facing? And then away from that, what are your impressions on the elections in Rwanda and Kenya, where the opposition leader is disputing the outcome even before the process is over?
Well, the first thing to say is that there were very extensive discussions between the, and with, and separately, you'll understand, with His Excellency the President and the leader of the opposition. They have both committed to dialogue and to create the roadmap through a process of discussion. Those discussions will be formulated and inclusive. I think it would be helpful if the roadmap is allowed to be formed from those discussions, as opposed to my commenting at this stage as to what is or is not going to be in the roadmap. But what I can say is that my discussions with both was very extensive, and I have no reason to believe that matters which are of importance to both will not be adequately covered within it. In relation to the elections that happen elsewhere, you'll know that the principles, the Latimer House principles in terms of separation, apply to all. In each of the cases where we have a Commonwealth observation group, the Commonwealth observation group is able to record and report whether the elections in any given country are credible. I have not yet seen the matter to which you refer. As you may know, in the last couple of days, I have been fully engaged here in Zambia.
I have a question from Waterfam. Good evening. My name is Logic from Waterfam Radio. I might have missed you in the process. I would like to know the exact date when the two leaders are likely to engage into dialogue, and if so, where? Because the other one is in prison, the other one is at State House. And in the past, the two leaders have on several occasions refused to dialogue on anything with pride. I wanted to find out from you, or your assurance, in terms of the breakdown of the process, in terms of dialogue. Are you there to assure us that there will be no breakdown and this will see a logical conclusion?
You will have noted from the comments I made, and the copy of the statement will be circulated, that both the President and the Leader of the Opposition have agreed that the roadmap should be facilitated through and by the use of the good officers of the Secretary General, which is myself. I have assured them that I intend to appoint an envoy as soon as possible, so that with the assistance of that envoy and through an inclusive process which will involve the stakeholders who have hitherto been engaged in this process, we will be able to have a proper and expeditious timetable. You will also note when the statement is circulated that we have provided that the roadmap should, if at all possible, lead to implementation of the identified reforms by 2019, the end of 2019, and that there should be a review at that point. The reason why we have settled on 2019 is it is 2 years before the next election in 2021, so that if the reforms that the parties have identified and committed themselves to are not yet complete by 2019, we will have enough time to review what further and other matters need to be completed by 2021. I hope that I will be able, on my return to the United Kingdom and Marlborough House, which will be on the 17th of August, because from Zambia I'm going next to Tanzania and thereafter on to Mozambique. But I will take every step I reasonably can to both identify and appoint a envoy as soon as possible, and the timetable between all the parties can then be set. And I hope to be able to do that as expeditiously as can reasonably be arranged. I should confirm that neither His Excellency the President nor the leader of the opposition wishes to have any undue delay. Both wish to launch on this path as quickly as possible. I should also make clear that there is no impediment to the parties starting their conversations with others as soon as they wish, and certainly before Eve and I have appointed a envoy, and both, I know, are anxious to get on with this process.
Thank you so much, Right Honourable. My name is Esnat Lungu from One Love Radio. My question is, don't you think it would cause some sort of, I don't know if it would be safe or okay, some sort of confusing environment to review the roadmap 2 years before the election in 2021? I don't know how safe that would be.
I think I need to explain that we reasonably anticipate that the matters that are raised and are of concern by the both parties may, and I emphasize may, need statutory or other alteration. And you will know that the parliamentary process, which will get a bill through the House of Parliament, takes time. Takes time for legislative changes to be drafted, takes time for it to go through the first reading, the second reading, the committee stage, the report stage, then the third reading, and then to conclusion. I think there was anxiety that if we didn't have a review by the end of 2019, because of the number of issues that both parties might wish to raise, that we wouldn't have a proper timetable. So at the end of 2019, all parties would be able to make an assessment of how much more would need to be done. But it is hoped that the process that we are going to be involved in will be a comprehensive process which is being committed to with energy and with real commitment by both parties.
Good evening, Madam. My name is Francis Mangera. I'm a correspondent for AA News. Would you kindly highlight some of the concerns which were expressed by the auditors during your meeting with them?
I think there have been concerns in relation to whether the electoral process provided is as robust or as good as they both would like. Various issues have been raised, I think, in relation to the new constitution and to the way in which it has been implemented. But I think I should make plain that after every election, the Commonwealth observation group in each country that certainly I've seen make recommendations for possible improvement. That is what happens after every election. It's the opportunity to review the process, to understand if all the procedures are in accordance with the best now available practice. It's an iterative process, and therefore we will be looking at the reviews undertaken and the recommendations made by each of the observers who observed the 2016 election, and looking at how those recommendations could be taken forward. In the past, the way in which we have dealt, and I'm not just talking about Zambia, I'm talking about generally, in relation to the work, has been slightly siloed. Since I became Secretary General, we've tried to integrate the work on good governance so that we have preparation for elections long before the actual election takes place, then a period of observation during the elections, and then after the elections a consideration as to what good governance, the rule of law and best practice would recommend in relation to changes, and then the implementation. In many countries in the past, recommendations have been made after the observation groups, but not really looked at until very soon before the next election. So we're trying to do a more holistic process, and we think it will be highly beneficial. Indeed, what was started here in Zambia in terms of the pre-election work and then the observation and then the view of coming back has been a process which has been adopted in other countries. We use that process in Ghana as at the invitation of the parties. We used it in Lesotho, and I think it's going to be used in many other countries as well. So this is an ongoing consideration which we're taking very seriously.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Secretary General. We'll take 2 more questions, and then I will circulate copies of the statement which the Secretary General read. Okay.
Good afternoon, Honorary Secretary General. My name is Costa Mansa from Diamond TV. Secretary General, I've been listening to your statement, which I see to be rather very carefully structured and very diplomatic. I want to understand the genesis of your coming here and how far your mediation goes. Because as a journalist following the happenings in the country right now, you have an opposition leader incarcerated on what he and the followers and many other stakeholders believed are trumped-up charges. And you have the state presidency believing that there is a case and he's not being recognized. So my question this afternoon, Madam Secretary General, in your engagements on both parties, you rightly put in your statement that both parties are willing to commit to dialogue and the process to make reforms. I believe this is towards peace and the elections. But the key question, there's a case that comes up on the 14th. Is the opposition leader going to be acquitted for this process to take place? Or is this dialogue going to take place while he's still incarcerated and the court processes still go ahead? Thank you.
The conversations that I had both with His Excellency the the President and the Leader of the Opposition were extensive. I had an opportunity to speak with the Leader of the Opposition twice. Both those conversations were long. I think the first meeting I had with him on Monday was more than 2 hours. I then was able to listen fully to all the issues of concern that he raised, and was able thereafter to return the next morning and speak again to His Excellency the President, after which a further meeting was facilitated for me to go back to the Leader of the Opposition and hear from him more fully the issues which were of importance to him and the matters that I had been able to raise on his behalf with His Excellency the President. So I can say without any doubt that both parties are fully aware of the other party's position. And that's why in the statement I say that both parties are going to do everything within their gift to create confidence and to enable this process to be facilitated. You will be aware that any prosecution in any country in the Commonwealth is within the purview of the prosecutors, or in this case, the Director of Public Prosecution. That role of prosecutor has to be undertaken independently and in the public interest. It is a decision which cannot be influenced and should not be influenced by political considerations. However, the prosecutorial test falls within 2 areas. The first is a determination as to whether the elements of the offence complained of is made out, and whether there is sufficient evidence to prove that the matters complained of would satisfy a jury to the requisite standard. The second test, an equally important test, is whether the prosecution is in the public interest. It is only when both tests are satisfied that a prosecutor is then entitled, and to use their discretion, to continue a prosecution. If the prosecutor comes to the decision that it is not in the public interest, notwithstanding the fact that the offence is made out, to prosecute in this matter, then it is within the prosecutor's discretion to issue a nolle prosequi. That is something which is not within the gift of the executive, but remains in the gift of the prosecutor. All I would make clear, and I do so having discharged this role as the Attorney General, Her Majesty's Attorney General in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, all I would say in relation to this agreement that has now been genuinely entered into by the leader of the opposition, fully aware of his position, and by His Excellency, the President, is clearly in the interests of the people of Zambia. Zambians, I know, are peaceful people and wish to continue to be so. The genuineness of the commitment that I witnessed both from His Excellency and from the Leader of the Opposition, I believe we can rely on. And therefore, this settlement is, I would argue, in the best interests of the people of Zambia. I am sure that the Director of Public Prosecutions will consider the import of this statement and what both parties have now agreed when making her proper determination on the two tests which I have just outlined. That there can be nothing said or done by anyone, whether they are within the executive or without, which should improperly influence the independent exercise of the Director of Public Prosecution's decision. And to do so by anyone would be considered grossly improper. I have no authority and would not dream of so doing.
I understand there are two questions waiting, one from BBC and one from Movie TV. Those will be the last two questions.
My name is My name is Naomi Mwemba from Movie TV.
Could you speak up?
My name is Naomi Mwemba from Movie TV. Have the board leaders indicated of forming a government of national unity? And also, what's your comment with regards to the decision by the judiciary not to hear the presidential election petition, because it is the general feeling of most of the people that it is the source of the tension in the country?
The first thing to say is I am not in a position, and it would not be proper for me to comment on any decision made by a member of the judiciary. The judiciary are independent and they should remain so. You'll be only too familiar with the Latimer principles, which sets out the separation of powers. So I am not in a position to make any comment on that matter at all.
Madam Secretary General, we'll have the last question from BBC before we close the Q&A session.
My name is Kennedy Kondo. Listening to you, and I stand to be corrected, there's an impression being created that the leader of the opposition may actually be released via an ole as a result of public interest. Is that the position of the president? And then secondly, you also talk about the issue of recognition of the president, as the president himself has spoken about, and then the opposition have taken this matter to court. Going by what you've been able to deduce from the gentleman that you met, the treason case is not really prominently coming out even in this press briefing. Is this still a matter of contention, or is just a way that he was arrested?
I think, and I know that you will appreciate the delicacy of this position. I've been very clear that I am not trying to, in any way, predetermine what the DPP will decide. And it would be improper to do so, because if we were to do so, we would be influencing or seeking to suborn the proper exercise of that discretion, which would in effect vitiate the authority. And I know the BBC would never want that to happen. The President and the Leader of the Opposition, as I've said, are committed to doing this. There are a number of issues that you will know that were raised and raised in the public arena by the Leader of the Opposition. I am hopeful that by virtue of the last paragraph, and maybe I should just read it again, because it is worth looking at as we go forward. In the last paragraph of my statement, I have said that both parties have further agreed to take such steps as are within their gift to create an environment that is conducive to peaceful resolution by generating greater and deeper public confidence in their commitment to a constructive, progressive, and responsible engagement. From the extensive conversations I have had, both with His Excellency the President and with the Leader of the Opposition, I am confident that both of them are aware of steps which can properly be taken by them to bring the resolution to the problems. And it is important to recognise the penultimate paragraph, which has clearly indicated that they are willing now not to look backwards at the difficulties and contentions between them in the past, but to look forward in order to promote peace, stability, and the public good, and to look at the next election to give dialogue, peace, and harmony of chance. This statement made by me acknowledges the President as the President and the Leader of the Opposition as the Leader of the Opposition. And both have been content to allow the Secretariat to play the role outlined in this statement, and that is as facilitator for the roadmap of peace to lead to the 2021 elections. And it is important, I think, for the media to help to play its role in building peace, and I know that all in this room wish to do that, and none in this room wish to undermine peace. There is a great role to play, and I hope that there will be a lot of joy and satisfaction that after a very troubled and troubling time, which has caused great anxiety and concern, proper concern to the people of Zambia, that those who lead them, both of whom are men of faith, that they will get great satisfaction that both the leader of the opposition and the president, being men of faith and being men who are totally committed to what is in the public interest of the people of Zambia, have decided to put the past behind and to look forward in the interest of the Zambian people. I hope that's something which we can all celebrate.
Thank you very much, Secretary General, and thank you all for coming this evening. If you have one of the sheets of paper with for contact details, please kindly